guess that's the cool thing about this bait that we're throwing. It has stood the test of time. It's been around forever. You know, wouldn't the first Bassmaster Classic was won on a spinnerbait. More conditions. Well, you know, we're here in North Texas. We're getting ready. Strike King's got a new spinnerbait out. It's the tour grade spinnerbait. We're just here at a perfect time. You know, we got a big front coming through, fixing to hit this week. You know, fish are post-spawn, and I'm here with 2020 Angler of the Year, Clark Wendlandt.
You know, the thing about it is Greg, when we looked at what the situation was going to be, we thought that with the weather coming in, we thought spinnerbait, I mean, that's like a no-brainer. And then Strike King just happened to have this new spinnerbait, so it was like a perfect storm for us. We got the bait in our hand, and heck, we couldn't put it down.
You know, fishing in Texas it's always cool to come to Texas because of that big fish factor. You know, there's always that opportunity there or a chance to catch a double-digit fish. Texas, you know, Parks and Wildlife has done better. Honestly, I'm gonna have to say this better than any other state in the country on managing their lakes for trophy bass. So, you know, us being here we got bad weather coming. It's just kind of the perfect storm. You know, we're here after the spawn. You know, the fish are post-spawn, they'll be feeding up, and we got a bad weather system, which typically triggers them to feed, and you can power fish, and that's what Clark and I are gonna do this week.
And I mean, we both love fishing that way. I mean, we're both sitting there thinking, I was like, do I need a flipping rod? I think we're gonna be winding, Greg said. I was like, man, I hope we're gonna be winding, because that's the way we like to fish.
So I got one rod out, anticipating that this is gonna be that spinnerbait day.
There he is. There's a start.
Oh. Number one on that tour grade spinnerbait. Now I told you it seemed like a spinnerbait day. And I mean, he throttled it.
Did he really?
I mean, throttled it. I thought he was a lot bigger than that. Cool.
Cool.
That's a big one.
That one jumped on it, didn't he?
I mean, they are getting it. Spinnerbait's fun. It's probably not a funner way to catch a bass than a spinnerbait. It's so visual. And it's easy. Like, you know, it's funny, but this is the bait that I learned to fish with. Probably the first couple years of my bass fishing history, every fish I caught was on a spinnerbait because I couldn't do anything else, but I can throw that spinnerbait out there and reel it in.
I mean, there was a period of time we just, I mean, you and I probably kept throwing spinnerbait, but spinnerbait just doesn't get thrown like it used to.
It really doesn't.
I mean, there's swim baits, there's all different kinds of crankbaits, there's
bladed jigs,
vibrating jigs. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that takes that now, but spinnerbait still catches them. You know, one thing, Greg, that I think is so important, and I mean, the great thing about it is you and I love to fish, but it's just time on the water. I mean, that's kind of what hones you, really.
You know, that's the biggest question. You know, like weekend guys, they're like, what can we do to be better or whatever? And I'm like, nothing beats time on the water. All the guys that do the best spend lots of time. They fish a lot of tournaments. They fish a lot when they're not in tournaments. I like to deer hunt, but I still, you know, I take a couple months off of the year, you know, typically the end of November and December, and then January I got to go back to fishing again, because you can't compete you can't do what we do if you don't like to fish and spend a lot of time on the water. Just going through the motions every day, and it always seems like the more time you spend on the water, regardless of where it is, you make decisions better. You know, you're just a little more keyed in on nature, you know, and what's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I really felt like my year last year, a lot of it came because, you know, the whole country shut down March to what, May or June.
Yeah.
And all I could do is fish. I mean, you know, we could make videos, we could do some things to help our sponsors, but for the most part, spending time on the water is what I got to just do a ton of, and I think that's irreplaceable. You can't beat that.
So I was in a little different situation last year than Clark was. While Clark was winning the Bassmaster Elite Series Angler of the Year, I was in the process of requalifying for the Elite Series. So just as important as what Clark was doing, but a little different situation. But I think that helped me too, because I fished 3 or 4 days a week, you know, during the pandemic. During that time we were off, and it's so funny because,
good one, isn't it?
pretty decent one. I learned so much about fishing at home. I typically would be gone, and I got to fish a lot. Another nice one.
That is a nice one.
But I do truly believe that nothing beats time on the water, and if you'll go back and I've studied the sport of bass fishing, and if you study all the greats, that's the one thing they all have in common. They love to fish, and they spend lots of time on the water. You know, you can watch videos and you can read, and all that helps, but you need to go to the water and apply that, you know. Uh-oh. We might have found a little,
that one came off.
a little honey hole.
There was a couple kind of buzzing right on top of that little mat a minute ago.
So it never gets old. That's the main thing.
No, that's true.
Every bite. So as much as I like to catch them in competition, I just like to catch them. I'm not cool anymore. I was cool when they were little. Cool. Oh, man, he bit good though. Man, he bit like you like. I thought I had him. There you go. It's all right, they all count.
He doesn't count quite as much as the bigger one. At least seems that way to me.
Little ones grow into big ones.
You know, when we looked at what we were about to do, spinnerbait, but it's going to be raining all day long. And I'm thinking, well, heck, we're not even going to be able to film. I mean, on a tournament, they get out there with us and they put on jackets on the cameras and everything, but it's hard. I mean, you know, it's a hard time to film. In this situation here, we got out there and they stayed with us. I mean, I think it's going to turn out where it's going to be a really cool show, because you don't see that rain that often filming.
That is I have fished in weather worse than that, but by far the worst weather I have ever filmed in. And typically, like most of the time when the weather's like that, they're like, we'll just stay at the hotel today, or, you know, we're not going out in that. So I was impressed by our group, you know, to filming this, and I didn't mind fishing in it, and I know Clark didn't, but I was impressed with them staying out there with us. And because the thing about it is, a lot of times the best fishing days are that day.
Oh, absolutely.
And we had the right weather for a great fishing day, we just didn't have the right weather for a great filming day. See, the only bad thing about the way this, there he is.
Right in the center of that drain, wasn't it?
Golly, when they get it, they get it. Down in the grass, I guess.
You got him.
Got a little, I guess that would be surf and turf. Man, when they hit that spinnerbait, they get it good though. Now see, he's on the, I got a trailer hook on there.
Yeah, but he's on the main hook.
They get the main hook, you know. I mean, they're biting it good. Pretty. post-spawn fish. Is that kind of what you're looking for? See, I was just saying, I thought they should be biting. I mean, I'm like, we still should catch one every now and then.
Yeah, that looks good.
I mean, I would have thought he was bigger. A lot of attitude to these Texas fish. You know how their attitudes are bigger in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. Texas's population is growing at such a great state. Everybody wants to move to Texas.
Isn't that fun?
I mean, they are swarming to get in Texas.
They seem to be. From California.
From California. That's exactly where most of them are coming from.
That's true.
I can't believe there's a lot of people. I don't know why people would ever move out of California. California is a beautiful place. I enjoy every time we went out there and fished a tournament. It's kind of like Texas. It's got them really, really big bass. There you go. There he is. It's a big one too. Nice. He was up there in that hole in the grass.
All up in there.
Well, there's kind of
That is a pretty good one.
yes.
Look where he was hooked though.
That's a pretty fish.
Trailer hook, but sometimes that's where they are. That's a good one. Because I've been sitting here thinking the only place they are is right there on the edge, like right where you're throwing.
No, sir. They out there in it. I mean, right out there on top of it every time.
A good fish. I want to show you just a little bit. You know, throwing a spinnerbait, you can do it. You know, you can do it one of two ways. Sometimes the cover won't let you put a trailer hook on. Sometimes it will. That's just a free floating trailer hook. Little piece of plastic on there. Good fish.
Fast is better. And so the deal is, you know, we were covering a lot of water, you know, fishing that spinnerbait at a high rate of speed. And basically what we were doing was targeting the most aggressive fish. When that water's that clear like that, it's hard to go back through an area and trick fish with that same lure, you know, a power bait. And we probably could have went back and plinked a little worm around and that type of deal and got some bites, but the best thing we had going for us was to keep showing new fish that bait and just covering water, and that's what we did. You know, the key was not letting any grass grow under that spinnerbait, keeping that thing going.
Cool. He was pretty high up in there.
That spinnerbait is fun. When they get it, they just get it so hard. Now I did go to that faster reel so it wouldn't work me as hard. And I also went to a little louder spinnerbait, but you can see he's on the main hook. But this is still a fairly transparent colored skirt. Still that 3/4 ounce, the one I've been throwing, but it just seemed like Clark started having more luck on that, you know, one that you could see a little better, so. And I'm a quick study.
I'd say so.
But pretty simple. I fish a trailer a lot on a spinnerbait, but typically when the water's clear like this and you're reeling that bait pretty fast, I don't. Because that trailer will have a tendency to slow it down, slow that bait down. And you know, the deal that we're in now, speed. Speed kills, and that's kind of the deal. That's the reason I switched, and this will BB1 Pro, but I went to a 7.3-to-1. And like normal spinnerbait fishing, 6.4 is the reel I choose. You know, close fishing, whatever, you can slow roll with it or, you know, keep it pretty fast. But in this deal where we're making long casts and burning that bait, you know, faster's better. So I just don't have, look, I can keep that bait right on the surface now and I don't have to reel very fast. You know, it just made me a little more efficient, and Clark got to catching them, it was starting to wear me out. You know, not that I didn't want him to catch some, I just didn't want him to try to catch them all. I really had in my mind that he would catch us a 7 or 8 pounder today, and he might. I'm not gonna put it past him. Ooh, golly, I saw that big one get it. That's a big one. Nice. Man, it's so cool when you see them bite.
I love seeing them bite.
A long, lanky Texan right there, tall glass of water.
So he got the main hook right there, you can see it. Trailer hook's just sitting there flopping. I actually hopped that, jerked it, Greg, right when he bit it, but that's a good one.
I saw him come from the side and get it.
You know, that spinnerbait's compact. It looks really like a bait fish. I mean, the colors that they've come up with the blade combinations. I mean, to me, if I was gonna look at a bunch of spinnerbaits, that's the one I'd pick, because to me, you know, Greg talked about it when we were fishing. When you've got confidence in a bait, you can fish it so much better.
Well, you'll just have a tendency to fish that bait in a way that it catches fish. Fish, they're highly pressured. The lake that we fished today is a highly pressured lake. It wasn't today because nobody wanted to fish in that bad weather but us. But, you know, so these fish see a lot of lures. So eye appeal is such a big thing when fish are visibly feeding on anything. You know, the colors that we picked, they're transparent skirts. Now they have dirty water colors too in this bait, but you know, we went after the ones that look like a bait fish. You know, we want it to look like a perch, a bluegill, a shad, you know, shiner, something that a fish naturally feeds on. You know, when you got waters that clear like that, you have to fool Mother Nature. So the closest you can resemble what they're eating, the better chance you got of getting bit.
Ooh, gosh, that's a good one. I saw him hit it, man. That was an awesome bite. That was so awesome. That's a good one.
That's a big one. Golly, that thing smoked it.
I saw him hit it. I was watching your bait.
I mean, what a bite. Oh, he went in the grass. How about that? That is so fun.
That's great. Look at digging the corner of the mouth.
How about that? Right where it's supposed to be.
That's awesome.
That's an awesome bite. Big line. You know, that's the other deal. Look at that. That's a pretty fish. You can see she spawned. Look, her tail's red. She's done. Still healthy though. Nice. Now that's the funnest bite I've had today. They've all been fun, but I saw that one too. That was awesome.
Right.
It looked like a 6 or 7, didn't it?
It did. It looked big.
It looked big. Even though most of the ones I caught earlier were on the main hook, I just, in a situation, I'm kind of like Clark, in a situation where you can get by with a trailer hook, you always throw it. It doesn't impede the action of the bait. You know, sometimes when you're using a soft plastic trailer on the back, it's a little more work, you know, because if your trailer gets tore up, then you've got to pull all that stuff off, but it's still worth putting it on there if you can get by with using it. It will catch you a few bites every day. I promise you this, if you get 20 bites on the spinnerbait, regardless of how good they're eating it, 3 of them will be caught on that trailer hook. It's just, the odds are in your favor of having a better hookup with the trailer hook. So just a little bit of trivia. There he is. Now that one bit me a little farther out than a lot of them. Now see, on that trailer hook.
Trailer hook. The last 2 I had were on
How about that?
hook.
That's the reason. I mean, you just, even with them biting that good, you, no reason to take a chance.
I saw him hit it, Jack. You just looked to the left a little bit, exactly like what you were talking about. And I got to watch it.
Ooh, he eat it.
I wonder what you did, if you slowed it down barely?
I'm moving. It's coming steady, and whenever I do that, I'm doing something a little different. He had the trailer hook and the.
But don't you sometimes wish you could emulate whatever that is?
Yeah, I turn. You know, it's happened twice. I turn and look, and
it is. That's really
they get it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, all these fish are post-spawn, spawned out. Look at that, where he's been up there. Rubbing around. Looks like a Brandon after a Friday night. Just red all over.
Ooh. Right by the boat.
Right at the boat.
I mean, I was just kind of slow rolling that out a little bit.
So you weren't burning it when he got it?
No, I kind of, you know, because it came off that taper and I kept it down, so he got the main hook really good. You can see that. I'll show you my trailer hook's just sitting there kind of free falling in there.
And you know, maybe it's a timing deal. You know, it just seemed like all in all, it's getting better, you know. Strike Strike King has been a leader in the spinnerbait market since the beginning of time. Some of my first memories of fishing, I was about 10 when I caught my first 5-pounder, and it was on a Strike King spinnerbait. You know, I mean, that's how long Strike King, like Strike King used to only be, now they're known as, you know, they're the dominant force in the tournament market from plastics, crankbaits, whatever. But in the beginning, Strike King was a spinnerbait and jig company. Like, they were innovative with spinnerbaits because Clark will tell you the same thing. There was a period of time in our fishing history that a spinnerbait was 365. You never went to any lake in the country without a spinnerbait tied on. And you know, so many new baits that come out or whatever, it's not that the spinnerbait has been forgotten about, but it has been pushed to the side to some extent. That whole deal is evolving. Our sport is, it's funny, the greats always come back, you know, and a spinnerbait is an original great. It's one of the most versatile lures ever been made. But yes, to answer your question, Strike King was #1 in spinnerbaits when I can't even hardly remember if there was any other lure company out there. You know, that's how long Strike King has been #1 in spinnerbait.
And then guys like you and me, I mean, a spinnerbait's still something we think about. We always got tied on. I always have one in the rod box ready to go. So when you think that, I think a spinnerbait's going to come back and have a little bit of a resurgence because, and we're seeing it. If you look at tournament results right now, you see spinnerbait coming back and dominating tournaments right now.
That's a good one.
Well, it's been a while, but I still remember what it feels like.
Yeah, it's not as big.
It's so fun. It makes me just keep winding and winding and winding just for that 1 second of, Lord, main hook. I mean, nice bass, Texas. Now see, you say, well, that's not a giant bass, but in any other state, it's a 1/2 pounder. But here in Texas, that's what a 1/2 pounder looks like, because everything's bigger in Texas. And you see how they show bass.
Keyed on something.
There you go.
So different in size.
Don't let him whoop you, Clark. Y'all know Clark wasn't gonna quit now unless he caught another one.
Clark wanted another one anyway. That fish's pretty poor. He just postponed. Oh.
Let me get my bug out the way. I got one too. I think mine's bigger.
I think it is too. That's okay. We can do this. There you go.
One of them long and lean ones.
Yeah, I think yours is bigger, but that's still not bad.
Not bad. It's been fun.
It has been.
Spinnerbait fishing is honestly about as fun a way as you can catch a bass.
Especially when the water's this clear.
Yes, it is. All spawned out post-spawn fish. There he is.
That's a good one. That's a chunker. He got it good. Took it deep in there. Wasn't it?
Deep in there.
That was awesome.
It's been a great day. Hope y'all have enjoyed it as much as we have. Get a chance to pick you up some of that Strike King Tour Grade spinnerbaits, you better get you some.
Because they'll bite it. Especially on a day like today.
Especially on a day like today. Don't let the weather run you off. Just pick up that spinnerbait and go fishing.
God, what a bite.
Oh.
I mean, seriously, that was a great bite.
I had the two-hander rod, and it's not as near as big as I thought it was.
I really thought it was big.
I did too. I was like, that's her. That's the one. Well, I mean, it just throttled it. It's all day long with that Strike King spinnerbait. That's all you got to do. Just throw it out there. If that fish had come off, I said it was a 6-pounder.
Oh, you would have had to have said it. It looked good.